Hi, you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop shop for all things personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. Today, we have Tatiana Whitlock on the pod to share some of her infinite wisdom on women's firearm training, concealed carry, and anything else you'd like to talk about today. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Well, thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to join you. My name is Tatiana Whitlock. I'm the National Director of Training for Girl and a Gun Women's Shooting League, the Director of Training at my home range in Gray, Howell's Gun Shop, and I'm a full-time professional firearms instructor and educator across the country and offering quite a bit of programming online starting this month.
That's wonderful. Starting this month?
Yes, starting this month because oddly enough, we are expecting an itty-bitty new baby gunslinger. So,
yay! Yes! How exciting!
It is. It's super exciting. And so what that means is being an expectant mom in the gun space, we need to be in a lead-free environment. So I'm transitioning, and we can talk about this later if you'd like, but transitioning into a lead-free program. And a lot of that instruction is now being taken virtually so that I can still reach my clientele across the country. So virtual private lessons were just launched. Online courses and webinars are going to be released over the next few weeks as well.
That is so exciting. I will have to repost that onto She Shield when that's available. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. It's incredible. Would you like to go ahead and speak to some of those concealed carry aspects that might change now that your body is going to go through some changes? Is this a good time?
Sure.
Okay.
So a lot changes. We call it the great expansion in our household.
That's awesome.
So you can break it into the chunks, right? The first, the second, and the third trimester. And the first trimester is, for me, I didn't even know this was going on. This is a total life surprise for us. But as far as concealed carry is concerned, it's really kind of business as usual because your body doesn't undergo any kind of drastic geometric changes in those first couple of months. But beginning of the second trimester, you're going to start expanding rapidly. So your traditional, or if you're a typical appendix carry person or front of body carry person, that's going to be thrown out the window. I'd have to say the biggest issue I had in the first trimester was I was just real sensitive. My abdomen was sensitive, and I thought I was having other health issues. I had no idea. So I just kind of muscled through it. Had I known, I wouldn't have tried to just muscle through it. Probably would have changed my location or shifted my location over just a little bit to take pressure off of certain spots. But now that we're more rotund, I get some Santa going on up front. I need to change where I'm carrying. So now it's a matter of I'm carrying a little bit lower and a little bit more to my strong side, where I was typically a cross draw appendix person before. So we're just kind of rotating over. But looking into the next trimester, third trimester, I'm definitely going to be having to do off-body carry, because at that point, just the ability to apply a firearm to your body and how much pressure is already there and how much weight is already on your lower back and your lower abdomen. Adding any more restriction and confinement is just so uncomfortable that it negates the purpose. And carrying concealed should not hurt. It should not be an uncomfortable thing. So at some point, there is a time and a place for everything. Off-body carry is probably going to be the way to go. So within that space, knowing and looking ahead to that, I have an opportunity to brush up on those skill sets, do tons of dry fire, really choose a bag and a bag strategy that I'm going to want to live with probably for a kind of a 6-month window in the final trimester and in the first 3 months of baby. So, an amazing resource, if you're not already familiar with her, Melody Lauer of Lima Tunes did an amazing series, Baby Wearing and Carrying. So for any expectant moms out there, that is timeless. That knowledge is timeless. We've got new guns and some new holsters on the market, but that body of work she did is outstanding. So highly recommend that. And what holster am I rocking right now? Well, it's with hands down the Enigma, the Filster Enigma with the sport belt. And in fact, I'm about to order a large one because the small one, as I'm getting bigger, I want more padding in more places. So I'm going to size up in that arena to make it even more comfortable. But that holster has made it possible to carry through this ever expanding waistline experience comfortably, which I've tried belly bands, and again, it's pressure, it's restriction, it's the things that I don't want. And the Enigma really distributes those pressures well and takes away the discomfort.
Absolutely. Yes. Love the Filster Enigma. I can't talk about it enough. And absolutely love the sport belt. Of course, all women have hips. Mine are a bit pronounced. And so it's nice to have a belt that covers those hips as opposed to the traditional belt, which works for some people. And that's amazing. That is just kind of, is it polyester or nylon? What's the fabric? It's just kind of rigid, I guess. I think
it's that webbing. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. It's just a little bit more rigid. Yeah. It doesn't move with you very well. So it's definitely been a game changer for me, and I've been able to go running with it. So I'm so glad to hear that you're a fan of it as well. And yes, they have varying sizes. I forget to mention that it's not a, one size fits all. They have a size for all. So that's so exciting. And it's like you were reading my questions from the document. So that's amazing. I was going to ask you what a typical day of concealed carry looks like for you, kind of your gear, and if you ever vary between different modes of carrying. Do you want to expand on any of that anymore?
Sure. So as far as modes of carrying go, I kind of try to stay, because you're going to go to what you're proficient in, what your body's default to. So generally I'll try to have 1 or 2 carry locations or positions at period. And up until this point, it's been front of body. And I front of body loosely because, traditional appendix carry to a guy means a specific location, but to a woman, it's really the inner part of where your hip bone crests and starts to get squishy, right?
Right.
That whole area in between is open, like that's available for us. So front of body, there's a spectrum there where you can tweak where you're going with it. And different guns might require slightly different adjustment based on proportionality of the gun to your torso and all of that wonderfulness. So I'm a front of body carry person traditionally. However, if I've ever had to do a formal event where I'm wearing a jacket or, a cardigan, when you got to look like you belong in a boardroom kind of a thing. That's going to be a strong side, right? And for me being before this particularly very narrow and very curvy person, carrying a full-size gun strong side, I can't not print, and the angle at which I'd have to sit the gun on my body inhibits a legitimate draw. You got to do the alien arms thing to try and so smaller for strong side hip, where many people can get away with the big gun. I can't. I've got to go smaller on my side, and I can go bigger on the front. So that's kind of my I don't really wanna, but if I have to, I'll go strong side carry for concealment under those circumstances. On the very rare occasion, and there's photos and video to document this, I will do an ankle holster. And if I have to go extreme formal ball gown wear or getting married wear, I will wear an ankle holster. I wore one at the wedding, had the Walther PPS with a cute little optic on it on my ankle. And, that actually is way more comfortable than many people assume it to be, but it is based on success with ankle carry is contingent on a couple of very important things. You can't crack like a glow stick when you take a knee to draw that thing out. That's out. You have to have the range of mobility and athleticism to get down there and then to get back up. And if those are not things that sound good to you, don't do it. If you've got a new hip or a new knee, that ship has sailed. And the next thing is the apparel options for women for ankle carry are, full length skirts or a wide legged pant. And that isn't necessarily in everyone's scope of fashion sense or wardrobe. So those two elements really dictate the success of that. So those are kind of my 3. I've never been a huge fan of off-body carry, but again, time and a place, right? There's a time and a place for everything. And have I off-body carry? Absolutely. I mean, cocktail dress, where are you going to put in the clutch? That's where the gun goes. I'm going to have one. It's going to be somewhere, and it's going to be the most tactical, lovely little purse. No one needs to know it's inside. And prioritize the contents accordingly. So there's a time and a place. And of course, pregnancy, maternity, that becomes a viable option in a way that, again, training needs to support. So, moving into that for myself, I know I'm going to have to put in the work to make sure I'm proficient
Right.
before it's time to actually carry on a daily basis like that.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. That was a wonderful response. I have a few questions based on that response. And the first is for your off body carry, how do you set that up? Is it like a Velcro to a holster? Yes.
Absolutely. So there are
Wonderful.
body carry bags. There's some great ones out there, but just please remember, anybody who's looking to off body carry, if you look like a tactical ninja, you're just going to draw more attention to yourself. So the value in an off body carry solution is that it just looks like anything else, right? The problem with that fashion bag look is that it's also a fashion accessory, which can be your bling, right? It can be your thing that draws people attention to you as a fashion item. However, with concealment, I kind of dissuade that. I want kind of bland, boring, neutral, uninteresting. I don't want it to be something that makes people's eyes go to it on me. So I'll wear bigger earrings, or I'll do something flashy somewhere else. The bag is not the point of it. I don't want it to look interesting. I want it to disappear. So for me, that's how I move into that space as far as bag selection. Then it's the structure of the bag itself. Can it support the weight of the gun? And I've found phenomenal bags that are not branded or intentionally built for firearms. I don't want anything that contents could spill out of. So I need to be able to have complete closure of 100% of the contents, which is something that most people don't think about. But I might hit you with it. I might have to get really aggressive with the bag to move it across my body, to unzip, to grab and clear. So I can't have things flying out, especially important things like your phone or your car keys. Those things have to stay within your possession and your control. And then the pockets that are available to you, right? The pockets, the structure of the pocket. What's the material that lines that? Everybody talks about Velcroing, or the crossbreed modular holsters are fantastic because they already have the flat surfaced Velcro hook back already built into that holster.
Oh, wow.
And you can get a full purchase grip on that particular holster. So the crossbreed modular is all ready to go as an insert, right? So you don't have to Martha Stewart tactical your way into it. You just go find the one you want and it's good to go. What you need to do, though, is then apply the loop material to the inside. But if the inside pocket that you want is just this loose satin liner, that's not going to do you any favors either, because now you're just going to apply loop material to an unstructured material. Then you're going to apply something rigid to it, but you're going to rip the whole, it's going to come out like a sock in reverse until you max that material.
Right.
So the structure of the lining is almost more important than, can I fit the gun in there? Because you got to be able to fit the gun in there, but you also have to make sure you can secure it, because a loose gun is out and an unholstered gun is a big no-no. And that pocket shares no space with anything other than the gun. The last piece of this thing is, and I've got funny stories about this, it's the monkey with its hand in a jar concept,
Yes,
so
yes.
I've had bags that were sold as a solution for a specific make and model. And when I applied the holster in it as I wanted, and it structurally looked good, and I had the whole thing and I put it in, and I went to do my dry fire. I reach in, I grab the master firing grip I want, and I can't get my hand and the gun out. I'm locked up. So monkey hand jar kind of problem.
Yes.
So you need to make sure there is enough material, enough room to work with in there.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you said that, because I actually have a fanny pack that I feel so called out right now in the best way ever. I have a SOG, their SOG Surrept waist pack, and it has a back pocket that I have Velcroed. Essentially, I don't know if you know the brand Standard Co. USA or not, but I Velcroed one of their holsters to that back compartment, and I have my Glock 43X in there, and it's really easily accessible. It's the one closest to my body. I've realized I've been in a few uncomfortable situations where I can slowly bring that fanny pack to the front. I have yet to post anything about it. I don't feel comfortable yet until I have really tested it out. And taken it to the range and just really practiced it before I show anyone. But the other day, I also got this really cutesy bag off of Amazon, and it's like a crossbody fanny pack. It looks like a mini backpack, and it stays in the front of your body. And I tried to put my Glock 43X in there, and it fits just perfectly. But because of that, it's almost printing in the bag. And so having enough room is absolutely important. I looked at the dimensions, and I realized there's enough room for the gun, but not for my hand and not for the gun in the holster and all of those things. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Yes, wish I would have known that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it really becomes a flexibility issue. You have to be able to get the gun out. Nothing else really matters. If you can't get the gun out, then, you're just carrying around a little boat anchor in there that makes you feel good, but isn't going to help you. So,
Right.
Kind of a big one.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, a mini boat anchor. I love that. Did you say mini or did you just say boat anchor?
No, mini. They're little,
Mini.
Yes. Wouldn't stop, but,
Right. Yes. So there's a little bit of a lag. So I want to make sure that's what I heard. And that's the best analogy I think I've ever heard, hands down, about basically like next to a paperweight, of course. That's amazing. Yes. A mini boat anchor. I love that. I've typically told women that I don't recommend off-body carry for the following reason. So I would love your opinion on it. And that is that sometimes your purse is your target. And if you're having to toss your purse, if there's no time for you to get to your weapon and you end up tossing your bag as a way to kind of get away from the situation, maybe you throw it far to maybe distract them to get away. You're then tossing them your concealed carry weapon potentially along with all of your other identifying information. So kind of what would you have to say to that scenario in particular?
The snatch and grab thing, the theft issue is always going to be an issue because your purse is designed to hold valuable contents. It's got your wallet, it's got your devices. If you're elderly, it might have prescription medications in it. There's a lot of value in there. And so if someone's going to snatch and grab your purse or fight you for it, where in the country is that more relevant than others? Where are you going? That would be a potential issue for. And, crime right now is so weird and it's unprecedented what we're seeing for patterns and trends that it's kind of hard to even harken back to any kind of statistics on this because everything has changed in the past 3 years. The bigger issue I see with off-body carry is it's an easy solution in theory to keep you from having to solve the uncomfortable problem of how to put a gun on your body. So I see a lot of women throwing a loaded gun literally into the black hole of contents that is their purse and leaving it there. Just leaving it there. It's in there with the kitchen sink and the receipts from 1992 and all of the other things that live forever, or the chapstick that's melted into the bottom. I mean,
Yes.
And the gun be a part of that logic. That's terrifying, So that's where I start to see an issue with off-body carry. It is arguably the most demanding carry option that we have at our disposal. And it is the least practiced of all of the carry options that we have. I see classes for backup guns out of, deep concealment in pockets and ankles, but I see very few people showing up to Vicky Farnham's off-body carry class. And that should be the one that's in attendance in great volumes because of how many people off-body carry. But very few people put the work in that's necessary to do that successfully and safely. And one thing you spoke to is you need to have a heightened level of situational awareness. And I'm talking a lifestyle situational awareness when it comes to off-body carrying, because the chain of custody of what you do with that bag or that solution, whatever it is, a backpack, a briefcase. Do men carry briefcases anymore? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Fanny pack, whatever. Right? Hiking backpack, whatever that may be. We're so used to being nonchalant with that item that we get home and we throw it on a chair or we put it on the counter or we get to the office and we put it on our desk. Not if there's a gun in it. So the first time I tried to off-body carry, I had started my journey in this. I was new and I had a manufacturer send me a bag to evaluate. And I was a basket case for 2 weeks trying to manage a 3 and a 4-year-old and a gun and a purse, and just realized how I had never considered what I do with this thing, my bag, all day, every minute of every day, because I have curious hands that up until that point, my purse or my bag had been a source for candy, treats, and toys. And now, nope, no more can those things coexist, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
all the reasons someone would be interested in interacting with your purse, you don't need the stumble upon factor. And when we talk about chain of custody, there are some scary and tragic examples of kids killing family members as a
Yes.
result of handling guns out of off-body carry solutions because they were not properly set up in the bag to begin with, and the kid was allowed access to the bag. And that's gross negligence on the adult's part. So you can take it to that extreme. And that to me is the greater risk. You are at greater risk of personal negligence by leaving that bag unattended, and you are not in control of it. And now you are storing a firearm accessible by unauthorized persons, right? And that's against the rules. That goes against everything we do and why we do it. So for me, the greater fear lives in, could my kid's friend who comes over, looking for money out of my wallet, find a gun? And could they take it home? And I wouldn't know about it, right? So
Yeah.
that to me is the greater concern. And when you're thinking about assimilating an off-body carry solution, do yourself a favor, write a timeline of exactly what you would do with that bag every moment throughout the day. And it is terrifying how much of the time it's not physically on your person. So where is it? And how is that gun serving you in the moment it's not on you, but it's in the upstairs bedroom?
That makes a lot of sense. Yes. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And earlier you mentioned while you're in your later trimesters, you will be off body carrying, and you've done it in the past. So how have you kind of overcome those issues of not always being with your bag? What's kind of your process when you get home as opposed to when you leave?
Mm-hmm. So we have home storage solutions located in a couple places in the house. And as a result of not necessarily, wink, not necessarily having a gun on you physically all the time, where are those self-defense tools? Are they accessible to you in your high traffic areas in your home? Like where you would need one if it's not on you, how quickly could you get to one? So I look at my off-body carry solution as the one that I can be separated from the farthest. So that particular one will go and in the most inconvenient of those storage solutions in the house. Because I know everywhere else I move, I will have an option at my disposal, right? So that bag needs to not have everything I need to function through the day. That bag needs to be the bigger vessel where I can pluck out the clutch with my phone and my wallet and my keys if I need to just come and go with it. But the EDC aspect of that bag the whole bag goes in the safe, because I want to handle that firearm in and out of the holster as little as possible. The other option for that is, I do not want to be handling that firearm in and out of the holster. So given that I will be using the crossbreed modular holster, the other option is, instead of putting the whole bag into the safe, that I go from the car to the safe. And the first thing I do before I do anything else, before I put the bag down or take it off of me, I open that safe up, I unadhere, I go, whoosh, Velcro it out.
Yes,
Right?
that was
And put
perfect.
that fire yeah, sound effects are so important.
Yes.
Directly into that safe, close the door, and then I can have a clear conscience for what I do from that point on. The important part of that is you now have an additional step to leave the house with it again. You need to go back to that to reset before you leave the house. So think about it like going to take a shower, right? It's the same kind of pattern. If I can't just take that holstered gun off and throw it on the bed or the nightstand. I've got children in this house, right? We have friends coming and going. So I'm not gonna bathe with the gun on. I mean, I know there was the shower gun guy. I am not that cool. We all smart, but I don't have tire on the tile yet. The zombies haven't showed. I'm not there, but give me time. You never know, um,
Right,
it's
right.
like anything's possible. But
Yes,
it
you're
comes
right.
off the gun. It goes right into the safe. It doesn't linger anywhere else. And it lives there until I'm ready to go back out into the world the next morning, post shower in the morning, getting dressed, gun goes on, we go about our day. So you have to build in the routines, the rituals of those routines that prioritize the chain of custody with the gun. And it will alleviate so much anxiety. Did I turn the oven off? You don't need that in your life with a firearm. That is not. And that's what, people who become cognizant off-body carrying become very aware of very quickly. So you have to have a plan for that.
Wow. This is amazing. I have never, ever discussed this topic with someone in this depth, and I'm realizing that there was a gap I hadn't even considered. I don't have any children right now. My fiance and I both conceal carry, and we communicate so much about where guns are, if they're loaded, if there's one in the chamber as opposed to a magazine loaded, which was an argument we had when we just started. We were just together because I didn't know what he meant by loaded, and we had to talk about the difference between what loaded means versus unloaded. And but yeah, if I set my fanny pack down and I leave it anywhere, I tell him hey, this is the fanny pack with the gun, even though he knows it. He knows it, but me communicating that is it's a bit of a routine we've gotten into. I'll also tell him when I'm working with my firearm so that he doesn't come up and tickle me or do anything like that, because I'm terrified of just something like that. We also live in a very small apartment, 450 square feet. So when we're working in a space and doing something, we have to communicate. I just have never considered that I was even doing that in the first place, the routine. And I've had a lot of women write me and ask about pregnancy carry and ask about how to talk to their children about the fact that they have live weapons in the house. Would you like to speak to that, actually? How you speak to your own children? If that's not something you're comfortable with, no worries.
No, I do a lecture program called Kids and Guns Can Coexist. And it's specifically for those families who are trying to do what many of us have had to do and figure out the hard way, right down to the social shaming associated with being a gun household and perhaps a non-gun permissive community, or attitude-wise. Because most of them are. They just don't share that sentiment publicly, right? In a peer group. So, it comes down to a couple of things. Everybody wants to dive into, let's talk to the kids about the guns. And I'm like, do you even know how to do that yet? I mean, this isn't a birds and the bees conversation. This is a very different conversation. You already have to, it's equally as uncomfortable and awkward because many people don't have the language for this yet, because they're still learning it themselves. If the kids came first and guns came second. So you've already taught them not to stick forks in electrical outlets. You've already taught them not to play with the kitchen cutlery. You've already told them that you don't put your hand in the blender. There's equipment safety that is already, or hopefully, I'm making assumptions, that's dangerous, but it should already be part of your parenting strategy, right? You've already put away the pointy, stabby things when they start crawling. You've buffered corners of coffee tables, right? You've done all that work. And we bring firearms in there and we think we don't know how to do this. If your children have survived to the age of 6, you've done a lot of this. But what's new is you don't have the pattern to introduce this new power tool, and why this is just as dangerous as the chainsaw, right? Or the table saw or the bandsaw. This thing can do a lot of good. It can be an incredibly useful catalyst to great experiences and creating amazing things. But inappropriately, you can get killed, right? Holds just as much weight. But for a kid to go and say, well, I built this chair or this birdhouse over the weekend and used these tools at school, isn't going to be met with the same level of OMG as, look, my family went and zeroed rifles, right? So the social stigma is typically what makes parents forget they have the skill sets to teach safety around dangerous things. because of what's going to happen. The social ramifications are so strong. Schools have a zero tolerance policy for anything firearms related, period. The more rural you get, that might be a little bit more accepted because that is the common culture in those more rural communities. But as soon as you start moving closer to urban centers, there's a zero tolerance policy. I've had to work with a lot of families to cultivate the language to take the shame, right, out of the activity that is going hunting. And it's a family tradition, but and what better opportunity to teach safety and structure and ethics and moral responsibility and ecologically stewardship and conservation. I mean, it's like that conversation is so immense and so powerful and so positive. And for your child to go to school and be ashamed to talk about this, that's a different animal. And now that child feels like, well, maybe I don't want to do it because of the shame that's given from that community. So where should you begin? As a couple, right? You really need to decide how you stand on these things and how you're going to be preparing your children to talk about this outside of the household. Because kids, part of that safety conversation, my kids know we don't talk about a couple things. We don't talk about politics, religion, or guns in public. Those are our big three no-nos, right? As far as conversations with new people. Those are the three: politics, religion, and guns. Those are our things. Those are for us. And within our sphere of friends and family, still we even that there are parts of that are not appropriate. So the guns are part of a bigger conversation that shouldn't be an individualized, isolated topic. It should become part of, these are our family's standards. These are our family's these are our expectations for how we're going to interact with the world. And when we're in our home, let's talk about what our values are here. And those values should come, in my opinion, those values should come first. Those attitudes are what we establish first. So for my kids, I had guns I had children, and then quite rapidly thereafter, I had guns. So I was like, I had gun babies, I had little babies. And it was like this flashy, clashy thing. And I was like, oh my gosh. I had no idea who Melody Lauer was at the time. Oh, if I wished, like the things I wish I knew. So I was trying to solve this on my own as a newly single mom with, a 2 and a 3-year-old and my gun baby. So I felt like I had 3 going on at any time. But for my children, I was like, okay, I don't have language for this. And the 5 safety rules we're still working on ABCs. So, safe, unsafe, red light, green light kind of a thing. Yellow, ask, right? Those are kind of how we establish things. But for my kids, and this is hilarious, right? I didn't have language, so I tried to come up with something. So for me, I didn't tell them it was a gun. I didn't even use the word gun. I didn't use firearm. I didn't tase a Smith & Wesson, whatever I was carrying at the time. This is our protection, right? This thing is what mommy would use to protect us, to keep us safe. That's all they needed to know. The intent or the purpose of this thing, when it's on me, and you're wearing appendix and you're vertically challenged, like some people I know, you have a toddler run up and they will face plant right into your holster. So you got to see them coming and brace for impacts, face to full of metal, So we had to give an attitude, and it was protection. Like this is what mommy has to protect us, to keep us safe. Right. And they understood that because that's what moms do. We keep our babies safe, and we're talking, that's not safe. So the language I was using, it was pretty consistent. Then we go to the grocery store one day and I turn around and my son bumps nose right into right. And he kind of got a little sniffle, right. And, and then there was this, I'm going this way in the aisle and there's this young, handsome gentleman coming this way in the aisle. And he, notices that, Philip's pulling himself together, And Philip looks up at this guy and he smiles and he goes, "Don't worry, my mommy has protection." And I was like, oh,
that is amazing.
So, words mean things. And to him, that meant something very different.
Very different.
And I never thought that again. But Point being, like, you're going to have to decide what language you choose, what attitudes you cultivate. And that really can be unique family to family. I have a lot of faith-based families who use that language to support the intent of what these objects do for them. It's a structured athletic sport and discipline. It's a pursuit of precision, right? It's the science of it. It's a very dynamic thing. So what story do you want your children to learn about this? And the attitude, I think, comes first. The next piece of that is, don't dumb it down. Get technical. Use technical language. Use technical terminology. Do not think your kids aren't capable of understanding, is it a weapon? No, it's not a weapon any more than it's an assault rifle, right? Like, that language is specific to a military community. If you're not a military household, then that language isn't valid to you. And do you want your child to have that attitude that's associated with that word socially, blending into what you're doing? So again, think about the language, think about your intention. And it is a Walther PDP, which stands for Performance Duty Pistol, right? And it is a semi-automatic 9mm. What does that mean? Well, let's look, right? They are capable. They are more competent than you would think. Build little intellectuals, because they'll crave that. They will totally. And here's the thing. You nerd out on this, you're either going to captivate them, or they're going to be like, dude, I'm not... Are we done yet? You're going to wipe out the taboo, right? The, oh my gosh, that thing is like, can I touch it? The shiny. You're going to demystify that at a technical level. And that is valuable, because that knowledge is, that transcends age. It's the truth. And I'd rather have my children, if they're ever put on the spot, be able to answer with technical knowledge, sound technical know-how. And that will really puts in perspective who knows more about what's going on. So don't be afraid of that. And if you feel that you are not the right resource to educate your child, don't be. Don't be. How many parents will say that they won't listen, they won't hear it from me, but somebody else says it and they believe it? Why do you think firearms are going to be any different? So if it's that important to you, go and find a reputable instructor whose values mirror your family's values with firearms. And that is so important. They may have an incredible resume, but their values do not mirror your family's. That is who's influencing your child. So find that resource, enroll them in an actual structured program, because again, most people are blown away by the fact that we have safety rules for firearms. Like, my gosh, you can take a class for that? Like, yeah, dude, there's a lot of options. And honestly, the parents typically learn almost more than the kids do by going to take those classes with their kids. And it will validate everything that you are saying to them at home and then some. And that's what you want. You want your child to look up to you as, yes, you are the person yes, I do need to look to you. I should be asking you questions. And there's a bonding there that happens when you go into this as I'm your superior, but I'm doing this with you, not shoving it down your throat. Right. That I have found is a game changer, educating families and kids. And what's the best firearm to start them off with? It totally depends on the child, and it totally depends on what you may have in your home. Are there inappropriate tools? Absolutely. Proportionality, caliber, strength. Yes, you can be reckless, and that's absolutely unnecessary. So again, if you don't think that you are the best person for this, don't try to be. Find the people who are. And there's some amazing people out there who love working with young people, and it can absolutely change those kids' lives. I've watched kids who were socially just on the fringes and their parents were worried about them come and start taking lessons. And I've watched these kids find their passion, like they're good at something and they can nerd out on this. Right. And you know what? No one around them may have the knowledge, but they do, and they have the technical skills, and they're being praised for safety, and they're being praised for all of these things. And I've watched those kids' test scores increase at school, and I get amazing letters from parents. Like, anything, that's going to raise a child up, go invest in that. You're going to either have that or you're going to have the kid who's like, yeah, it's not for me. Am I worried about that child playing, curiosity killed the cat games by stumbling into a gun at his friend's house? No, that kid doesn't want to have anything to do with it. That's fine. They need a strategy for how to ask to leave. And that's the final piece of this conversation, outside of the giant lecture, right? The final piece of this is families really talk about this as a here and now, and we're sitting everyone down in the living room. We're going to talk about the first rule of gun safety is, right? Okay. Yes, you need to do that. And no, there is no age that's too young to start. We have rules for everything else. You look left, you look right, you look left again before you cross the street, right? It should be a part of that storyline developmentally as early as it's relevant. But what's more important is how the relationship you establish with your child, giving them an out and putting you as the person who they should trust the most to come and get them, no matter what, judgment free. So if that child is over at a buddy's house or finds themselves in a car full of friends that lands somebody else's house, right? This is a teenager's story, not just a little kid sleepover overnight story, right?
Yeah.
If they find themselves in an environment where a firearm is either found or brought into the equation, they need an out. And they need an out 15 minutes ago, not now. And so that's the strategy. That strategy is so, so important. And the NRA has the Eddie the Eagle program, which is a rather infantile stop, don't touch, run away, tell a grown-up, right? And I teach that even to the teenagers. I'm like, I'm going to make you giggle. Are you ready? Here's a cartoon character of an eagle and a parrot, right? And a goose, and I think a hummingbird, right? It's like they're like, oh, T. I'm like, I know. But I want you to giggle with alongside about how goofy this is if you're 16 and you're not 4,
Right.
But I also want you to realize the stop is for you to calm yourself down. It's the pause, right? We teach it in adults as the pause.
Yeah.
Right. So stop, don't touch. I'm not worried about you being like, ooh, shiny, like stop, like practice the pause. Don't touch turns into don't have a knee jerk reaction. Right? Yeah. Pause, don't knee-jerk reaction. The run away is physically remove yourself from the environment where the gun is present. Leave the room. Go to the bathroom. Forget you got to get something in the car. Physically remove yourself from that environment. And the tell a grown-up is call your person. Call your person immediately. And already have a story already figured out. Like I was feeling all right, but I don't know what I ate for lunch. I think I'm going to puke, whatever. Nobody wants to be around you if you're going to toss your cookies. Like that's what you want. You don't want anybody around you. Right? It's like, don't fabricate something that's a lie. Like come up with something that's going to be a deterrent and that your parent is going to know. It's a very simple story. Like I tell the little kids, I think I have a fever. I can't smell anything. I can't taste anything. Kids got COVID. Put them on the front deck, call the parents, they're going home, right?
Yeah.
Is it okay to have a little Wi-Fi? Let's talk about context. And again, these are family values and ethics and morality and what you're teaching your child. But giving your child that out. This relates to firearms. It relates to drugs. It relates to any other unsafe activity that a child could be engaged with anywhere else when they're not with you physically. So the firearm becomes a modality to have that and establish that trust if you haven't already had that conversation. But again, the firearm, the power tools, the kitchen appliances, all of these things, there's a set of standards we have to maintain physical safety, right? That firearm is part of that physical safety. Again, firearms, drugs, alcohol, illicit alcohol use, unsafe, reckless driving, friends that are becoming aggressive and scaring you, like they brought you to someplace you're not comfortable with. All of those things should follow the same pattern. And as a parent, we need to establish that as a constant. And that constant, guns are a part of that list, right? It's just a part of that list. But many families only start thinking about these things as a result of assimilating firearms into their life.
Wow. I was making sure there wasn't a lag and that it wasn't me. Every time I talk, it cuts you out. So even when I laugh, it'll cut you out for a second. So I literally could not hold in my laughter when I was laughing earlier. You're hilarious. I love the way you instruct and tell stories, and it's such serious topics, but the way you say things is so light and just enjoyable. So it's a perfect combination. Moving on. That is incredible. I didn't even consider that conversation needs to happen with or without guns in your own household. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. I didn't know that my father had a Glock 19, like Gen 1 in his closet growing up, in a safe, until I was much, much older, and he pulled it out and his bullets literally had mold around them. It was, I didn't know that was possible, but he asked me to clean his gun for him. And I was like, yes, of course I will. This is dangerous. But, I mean, I wish I would have had that conversation, because by the time I wanted to learn how to be around guns, I shook when I held a gun for the first time. And not to say that, even if you talk about it, it won't be a scary thing to do it for the first time. But I would have liked to have had a little bit more discussion about it in my household. That would have been nice. So thank you for sharing that. And if you think of anything else you'd like to share on that, I would love that. Did you say earlier the Melody Lauer, Baby Wearing and Carrying? So is that an article that she produced?
It's many articles, videos. Again, it's timeless. This content is timeless. So I think it goes back to 2015, 16, maybe 17 too. But she's, thematically, as far as I know, she's the first one that really, really in depth addressed carrying concealed and maternity. And she did a phenomenal job. She's still, she's someone you should be paying attention to. She's an incredible mind, an incredible analytical thinker, a profound instructor. Highly recommend her work.
That's wonderful. Yes, the cornered cat definitely changed my perception on a lot of the gun industry topics. Won't go into it too much because it's mostly on how I learned to avoid certain things. But yeah, that's wonderful. I'll absolutely, everything she has mentioned, I will definitely put in the show notes, which are the notes below the title, including her social media information, so you all can go see her journey and learn from her. So get excited for that, you guys. I would like to go back to some other modes of carrying that I've seen kind of circulating in the industry. And you can take this wherever you'd like to, whatever direction you'd like to take this. But some women have asked me about certain things like the flashbang holster. And I watched a video with you and Gabby Franco on I think it was a corset holster. And I believe in that video you were carrying the Enigma. You were still carrying the Enigma that day. But would you like to speak to those alternatives that aren't Kydex based and have like its own system? You have to kind of put it in its own holster and then put it inside of the corset.
Sure. The way I kind of break things down there are belt mounted holster solutions. So belt mounted is first. Then we have garment mounted, meaning that you're affixing the holster to the garment itself. Then we have body mounted, and we have off body, and then we have mobile, right? Those are kind of the five methods of carrying or affixing a gun to parts or pieces of you. And if you're going to be garment mounting, and I would consider a belly band or the underwear version or base layer versions of garments. There's tops, they look like Spanx or athletic shorts that have a wider waistband, and it's a fabric inserted pocket typically. And there's some fantastic options. A corset is this kind of like, it's the same kind of thing. It's a garment. It's not necessarily the Enigma, which I would really consider as a body-mounted holster. You're wearing that holster directly to your body. You're not putting on a garment and then inserting it into this full wrap garment. The issue with those fabric-based garments is that it is possible, and it has been proven, that you can compress through the fabric and activate and complete the trigger and discharge the firearm through the fabric. So that's one of the concerns that we have. What is the probability of that? I'm not going to play with the odds and find out. I prefer not to, right? A successful holster completely encapsulates the trigger guard on all sides, not allowing any part of you or anything you may have with you to manipulate the trigger in any way, shape, or form. So that being said, are those successful solutions? I have had many students who run those solutions very successfully. However, we add some pieces to it. So think of it as like the base, right? We have a base garment or a base carriage system, whatever garment solution you've chosen for that. The pocket itself should be able to receive the holstered firearm. Okay, the holstered firearm. So that Kydex holster, nothing squishy, nothing sticky, none of that stuff. I'm talking about literally click to insert, retention to remove with resistance, complete trigger guard coverage. That needs to be inserted, and there must be a method of affixing it within that pocket. And people achieve that with Velcro, with specific clips. You've got choices within that. And many people also discover that they go for a very minimalistic or low profile, less plastic, nothing big and bulky and chunky with wings and flanges. We want something demure that really doesn't add bulk. So more of the sleeve, like just an envelope Kydex, simple. And whatever you've chosen for either like an ulti clip, the basic vice grips of holster clips, right? Or Velcro, whatever you've chosen, very minimalist to eliminate printing, but gives you that structure and that stickiness that holds the holster in place so that you can draw and reholster one-handed, right? So that's where we see a lot of the questions about belly bands, fabric structured, corset holsters, angled bra insertion, like a deep sports bra that has an angled pocket so the gun can sit in. Sorry if I model this, grip down, it would sit right here on your body. It's backwards, upside down, you know.
Right.
Listex, yeah, it's a thing. So all of that is great. However, it's a story of my life. So there are great solutions for this. You can find an option that works for you. But it needs to be something that allows you full access to the gun on demand, that doesn't bury the gun outside of your natural range of motion or your ability to get a full 3 fingers grip, full grip around that pistol. If you've got to shimmy into a pocket, that's out, you know?
Okay.
So just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. So retention and safety is always first. It's got to securely be there. I mean, I've been in bathrooms where the woman in the stall next to me dropped trow when the gun came skidding into my stall. And you could hear her breathe, you know, and I was like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, oh my. Like, first of all, I want you to like take a deep breath. And if you're not already sitting down, you should.
Right. Yes. Oh my goodness.
I'm that person. I feel your pain, sister. We're going to get through this together. Like, just number one, don't panic. We made friends. We're okay, right? You don't need that to be. You need to make sure the retention is truly there, so you don't have those issues. And then access and grip. If you cannot do those 2 things, I don't care who makes it or what it is, it's out. There's no one holster that's going to work for every single human being in every season of the year on every body type and, you know, physical injuries, whatever. So do I have an issue with the flashbang holster? No, I don't have an issue with the flashbang holster. Can it be run very successfully? Absolutely. Annette Evans just proved that in a Craig Douglas class. It was an outstanding review of that holster. But I'll tell you this, Annette is a very skilled, highly trained individual with many, many hours and reps on the gun. She's a highly proficient shooter, and she's someone to watch. She's great. That being said, for the first-time person who's brand new to concealment, it wouldn't be my initial go-to as you're learning proper strategies, proper techniques, if you're even going to consider getting into combatives, right? I would go with a slightly different option. Is it a viable option? Absolutely. Does it demand a little bit more from you? Sure. And can you run a holster in a class that angles the muzzle towards your neighbor left or right? No, because you can't reholster unless you accommodate, shift your body, and reholster and reset and then turn. We have issues there. Anything that's
Right.
a single draw holster, where I would have to physically manage the gun, reach underneath, unclip, come back out, slip it back on, put it, and turn. And that, you see, that's like the setup time can be really problematic in a full class, trying to keep up. And, people are twiddling their thumbs waiting for you to reset. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
many people also, as they're beginning this journey, don't yet own a blue gun that is the same make and model as their carry gun. So getting the
Right.
reps with their specific carry model out of the holster that they're choosing, if it's one of those, we'll call them more demanding options, becomes a real issue. And so they don't get the reps. And so they're terrible. Their times are horrible. It's clumsy. It's awkward. And you're literally betting your life on this thing. So what solution are you going to bet your life on? Well, one that I can run for hours and hours and days at the range. I want to be able to go and take a 2-day class and run what I'm literally going to be betting my life on for a solution. So
Right.
if it is a flashbang holster, rock on. If it's any other kind of corseted holster, rock on. But if you're going to commit to that, put the time in. Put the time and the reps in and invest in that. People invest in all kinds of gear. You got to invest in the reps and technique, because without that, none of the monetary investment means nothing.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I've found a few options I'd like to try in order to just show how they can be successfully used. Sometimes though, I just really like to stick to my Enigma. When it comes to off-body carry, so like my fanny pack, which I trust myself with, the idea of telling people that this is an option without them realizing you have to train with it panics me so much. And I don't want to be the person that gave them that original idea. So I often just don't post. I'm trying to figure out that balance in all of my, not all, I don't want to say that. The majority of my reels have a disclaimer that I've trained this way. This is my experience. This is how I do it. I recommend training. I recommend instruction from qualified instructors. I'm not a qualified instructor, with a decent background. Not all are created equal, I've learned, but I always try to say that because I just fear someone will take what they want from my post and not the whole thing, which is the disclaimer with those emojis. That's, the hazard sign saying you need to train with this if you're going to do it this way. And I need to train with this if I'm going to continue to do it this way. So yes, I like that you're emphasizing that. And I think I just need to accept that I can't control what people do. But it's good that they hear it from someone of your caliber. So that's wonderful.
Explore the options. Some of the greatest carry solutions don't look anything like they would ever go to the gun range. The hikers packs or the distance runners fanny packs that have the water bottles on either side. No one thinks you got a gun in there. Look like you're, a thru hiker. Like, yes, I am a thru hiker. Like, go ahead. It's domestic camouflage. It's urban camouflage. Because here's the thing, people. If I see a fanny pack on you, and you got a gun in there, come on. But if it looks like it's a hiking pack, I just think you're sporty, and you might like granola. I don't know. So assumptions can work for you. They can also work against you.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I'd like to think the way I'll be in like a kind of a sporty outfit and then my athletic shoes, and I'll throw on my fanny pack and I'll have like a Nike hat on, just very like athletic looking. But sometimes I do get a little paranoid that someone's going to notice, not because I'm printing, but because I'll change the position of my fanny pack, or I'm looking around and just more situationally aware. And earlier you said something that I think I needed to hear which was, don't look like a tactical monkey, I think were your words. Is that what you said?
We call it tactical Timmies, right?
Tactical Timmies?
Yeah. Tactical Timmies. It's an industry term. It's not necessarily a compliment. It's a thing. But you're dressing the part of full on battle rattle to go to the grocery store. You're wearing
Yes.
the tells. We call them the shoot me first outfits. Do you know what I mean? Like your rookie is
Yes.
showing so hard it hurts.
Yes.
And that this is funny because I love the brands I work with. I love Walther. I love Trijicon. But like my haircut is enough of a brand identifier that people recognize me in the grocery store. I don't need to be adding a gun shirt as I walk through the grocery store. I don't want it personally as part of my self-defense strategy. It's also the reason I don't have stickmen family figurines on my car, and my kid's an
Right.
honor student at my school. I don't proud to be of whatever town. Like I don't have identifiers and tells about who I am and what value I may bring to you if that's what you're looking for.
Right.
I don't need to educate people about me. So my, part of my self-defense strategy is how, without losing who I am style wise and authenticity wise, as a female, I don't want to attract that attention. So my job is to blend and disappear and be the least interesting person to throw a little negative energy towards in a crowd. That's gray man concept. You just concealed carry. It's not, I might be carrying a gun today. How would I know? I'm wearing the hat and the shirt, and you can see my belt buckle, which is a Cobra buckle, because I totally look like I am a rigger for a living. And, no, no.
Right.
Come on. You still need to be you.
Yes.
And if your community sees you change, they're going to notice that. And again, it's the being noticed part that once you start carrying concealed, you realize maybe I don't want to stick out that much. Maybe part of my strategy is to be a little more crafty with how I'm not drawing that attention.
Yes.
So fanny packs, again, is one of those things where there was a fashion trend of fanny packs along with Lycra jumpsuits. That ship has sailed. The Lycra jumpsuits didn't come back with the fanny packs. So now the fanny packs are back. And I look at that and I go,
Right.
like, with your 9-line apparel ship, what do I think's in the fanny pack? Come on, like awesome company. 9-line apparel is amazing. But like if you're wearing the shirt and you're wearing a fanny pack, I'm going to say you have a gun in there. So
yes. That makes total sense.
Pick the poisons wisely.
Absolutely. I was so excited to finally wear my Springfield Armory shirt, but guess where I decided to wear it? The Walther headquarters. I wore it to the Walther headquarters on accident, and I walked in, and Chris was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And he had to go find me a t-shirt. Yes. I'm calling myself out here. Yeah. They gave me so much crap. And honestly, I only wore it because, Alexo Athletica had that's actually the next thing I wanted to ask you about. They had collaboration, with Springfield Armory. And the shirt is so soft and just so pretty. And I was so excited to wear it a place where I felt comfortable wearing it. Of course, they don't allow, you to conceal there, but everyone is aware that you're a gun person if you're in there, even if it's just your job, like you probably have some association. So, but I definitely wore it there thinking it was a great idea. And they were like, absolutely not, come with me. So I got a free shirt. That was awesome. I joked about that being my intention. I did, yes.
No. And Springfield's amazing. But it's always kind of funny when you're like, what shirt do you wear to whose party?
Right.
Things sometimes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That was absolutely my first run-in with that.
My husband can walk around with a Walther hat on, and he's not a shooter, and nobody talks about him. I wear a Walther hat. It's a conversation starter.
Right.
And, might not be an environment where that's the great conversation to have with Joe Public, who doesn't realize that now you've made a scene. Thank you. And I'm with my children, and now, great,
Yes.
So, it's telegraphing in and of itself. It's printing in a different way.
Yes, that's a great way to put that. Oh my goodness. Yes, I love that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I see a lot of men with grunt style t-shirts, and in my head, I'll try to guess the gun they're carrying. I don't even consider whether or not they're carrying. I'm like, I wonder if it's, a Hellcat or, just your average Glock 19. So that's a great point. And honestly, it's weird. I thought of these things before. I'm actually pretty proud of myself right now because I actually considered this before ever talked about it with people. But the more I'm like starting this conversation, the more I realize other people think about that too. And it's validating. And it's also just, it needs to be brought to, I think, people's awareness. I don't think they really realize it. I mean, I would like to think they don't, but, or maybe they want to kind of, it's their own little form of open carry without it being open. I don't know. Guess we will never know, really, you know?
Well, and some people aren't going to be the first person chosen as a target in that environment. If you're some big strapping dude with a Molon Lobby t-shirt on it, and then there's this like demure petite female over there, who are you going to choose first? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So, who you are proportional to the situation, is that provocative or isn't it? And that's something to consider too. But to your point, like when people are beginning this concealed carry, assimilating that lifestyle, these are problems that are common. It's a progressive like unfolding of what issue do you discover next. And oh my gosh, it feels overwhelming. Like no one has answered this question before, but we have addressed it. We've talked about it. And you're just going to, become aware of the next, I had no idea as you go. Totally normal. Totally
Yes.
normal. I know so many women who are like, I feel so embarrassed I did. Like, how would you have known? This isn't something that's broadcast on primetime TV. You're not taught this anywhere. So a resource I send people, and there's a lot of amazing instructors doing great work, but open source knowledge is the Enigma Concealment Workshop, or the Filster Concealment Workshop, which is online. And that is all open source. And it's not specific holster related. It's strategies. And I love that they are doing this. Filster is amazing. I'm so proud of them. I will champion them as hard as I can because they are doing such profound work to contribute to the knowledge base that is out there. And it is free, and the videos are outstanding. Sarah and John Hopman do a phenomenal job of disseminating knowledge about concealed carry in a very digestible way. So if you're like, I don't know where to begin with this, just start there. They're entertaining, they're short, they're wonderful, and they're very, very good.
I love that. Yes, I sometimes
they don't pay
sorry.
them too.
Wait, say that again?
Like, they don't pay me to talk about them.
Oh, gotcha.
They don't pay. Yeah.
Yes, no, I completely understand. Yes, I do. They have sent me holsters in the past just because it's one of those, like, they appreciate how much I put out there on my own time that they just send it almost like they believe in my content, and that's kind of how they have supported me. But yeah, I don't make money, like technically a commission or anything like that from them, and just absolutely rep them as much as I can.
Yeah. I just said, we talk about the brands we believe in, whether we are on their payroll or not. So it's a dangerous assumption, but many people do think just because you're talking about it and promoting it, you're getting some kind of kickback. Not necessarily.
Right.
That's not necessarily how this works. There's so much symbiotic relationships that go on in this industry where good people like you are being supported by brands and products you truly believe in with industry level support. And that is a gift that we give back to each other in kind. So it's just as valuable.
Yes, very well said. Oh my goodness. Okay, you really should write a book. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about concealed carry leggings. And if you honestly feel like you've covered just the fact that we need to train if we're going to carry a certain way and want to leave it at that, that's totally fine. But is there like something specific you'd like to say about your opinion on like those brands, or maybe even just the concept?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, no, the concept is great. I mean, thanks to COVID, who wants to wear real pants anymore? I don't enjoy them. It was really sad back to wearing real pants. And now I have this great aversion to pants because Belly doesn't like pants. She does. It's a girl, by the way. She does not like pressure and pressure.
Right.
So, I'm all about, we'll call it loosely athleisure wear, athletic wear that is now socially acceptable to wear places in the world outside of the gym. And that's kind of, Alexa Athletica has done a phenomenal job of creating a beautiful line of products that also allow you to incorporate a firearm. Awesome. It really comes down to how much of you do you want to reveal with that athletic apparel. So if you're at the gym, a sports bra and leggings is totally, it's normal. Like you wear sneakers too, right? Like it's not a thing. But I wouldn't go to the grocery store like that. And I certainly couldn't carry with that level of exposure. So consider those garments as your base garment. And again, how you assimilate a holster into that solution is largely contingent on the garment, the size of the gun you're trying to carry, look, all of those things that are standard fare. But then what is your cover garment or your concealment garment? That's where the magic really is. Your foundation garment is kind of what I call those pieces. That's your standard. And those leggings for many women are an amazing solution, really amazing solution. But your cover garment is what's going to make or break that overall experience. So be mindful of that. And you can get away with those leggings and a cute little pair of heels and a nice little tunic like that can dress those leggings up quite quickly,
Right.
and you can dress it down with a sweatshirt. So they're very versatile in that respect, very versatile. And I think that's an asset that we didn't have before in a great way, and we do now. Dean Adams also makes outstanding products, very similar, really robust construction. She does a phenomenal job as well. And both advocate all of the things that we've talked about on the show, the assimilation of a holster of your choice, affixing it within the structure of the garment. Both brands do a great job of that.
That's wonderful. I actually have not heard of her, so that's awesome. I will have to look into her after we get off of this episode. So can't wait to do that. That's so exciting. Vakandi is another great brand that has kind of worked belt loops into their leggings. And something I've noticed is that adding a belt so far to my pants has been really helpful for the Enigma. And the only reason, if you're thinking or listeners thinking wait, you didn't use belts before, I did, but I tend to pretty much only own skinny jeans, which is, I'm not proud of it, but I pretty much only own skinny jeans. It's just a fact. And so they're already pretty tight. And by the time I add a holster, I don't really need a belt. And at that point, it's just another layer of bulk. But sometimes if those pants, or in this case, the Vakandi leggings, offer a little bit more movement than, skinny jeans, then they are, the belt actually offers some compression to the Enigma and pushes it closer to my body. So I have enjoyed that aspect, and that has been made possible with the Vakandi leggings. I don't know if you've heard of them, but I like them a lot for sure.
Well, I like what you just described, because I too, with a prior to current life status,
right,
a skinny jean, boots. I love boots. I will live in boots. I live in boots on the range. I live in boots off the range. I live in boots. Right now, it's flats or no pants and no shoes. I'm this is ridiculous. I wanted to be summering it around so I can just get away with a spring dress.
Right.
However, the pants that I had found, which were hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, there's nothing funny about the brand, but I thought it was funny that this was the most amazing solution for me, were Spanx. Spanx has an apparel line, and they are high-waisted, wide waistband, faux, right? So there is no zipper. There is no closure structure. It is elastic material, and it has an additional front garment panel built for smoothing out and rounding everything out. What more do we want for a concealment garment? We want our garments to achieve those things, because that's the ultimate goal. Eliminate lumps and bumps, which draw the eye, creating asymmetry, which draws attention to the firearm itself. And what does shapewear do? Eliminates lumps and bumps, smooths everything out. High-waisted gives you more options to carry a bigger gun, and supports the placement of most people's guns in an Enigma, which is actually higher up on the torso than we've ever been able to achieve before. So those garments now give an extra layer of compression and structure to the placement of the gun on the body. And the magic of the pants style you're looking for is not anything to do with waistband to just below the inseam. It's fingertips to ankle. That's the fashion element of the pants you're looking for. So if you find a garment where fingertip to top of waistband supports the gun, rock on. Buy the boot cut, the flare cut, the skinny jeans from that manufacturer, because that, again, the foundation is from there to here. And that's what's going to hold the gun. The fashion element is really just the tailor from mid-thigh down.
Right.
And that's where you can get cute with whatever you prefer. And, everybody tells women we've got it hard, but we've got so many more options than the boys do, like infinite,
Yeah.
so much it's paralysis by analysis, really. That can be the biggest issue. But yeah, right before I found out about Itty Bitty, I was rocking the Spanx denim. Awesome. Worth the investment. Amazing. And an
Yes.
Enigma. That gun is like the magic eraser for a
Yes.
full-size firearm. I love it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So I actually do own quite a few Spanx jeans. And it is their faux jeans. They're like, I forget what they call them. Do
Yeah.
they have a name for it? Is it just jeggings?
It's the most beautiful lie in the world.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes. I recently have, so I worked with a coach for like 6 months on strength building and some like body recomposition, and she's a metabolic specialist. So she helped me heal my relationship with food. I actually started eating food that I needed to supply the energy that my body demanded throughout the day. And I did grow a bit. So a lot of those jeans don't fit me. And that's the only reason I haven't worn them as much lately. But if you go down into my, former videos, not too far back, like 5-6 months, I link Spanx and everything because I swore by them, and I do still. I just need to buy one. I need to buy some larges. It's time. So
worth so worth it. And again, it's the structure of the garment, not necessarily the brand. So I bring Spanx up, but if you can find that solution and that structural solution in another other brand, rock on.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Absolutely. Yes. 100%. Sometimes it's just because that brand offers that quality and I haven't been able to find it somewhere else. And you can also get things secondhand, like online secondhand shops like Poshmark and Mercari. Yeah. That's where I get most of my clothes from. Mm-hmm. It's, yeah.
Yep. Thread Up, another one. There's a lot of good ones.
Thread Up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to look into that. I do want to go back to something you said earlier, which I don't think people talk about enough, which is when your gun is pretty much, oh my gosh, what was the word you used? I'm probably overcomplicating it, but it's essentially just tucked into the fabric, and the fabric is totally covering it to where you have to do a deep concealment draw, essentially. What would you say is a good rule of thumb for people that are wanting to do something like a corset with a Kydex holster tucked into it? Would you say they need to practice having like a certain amount of distance between the bottom of the fabric and their handle, or what would you say?
Absolutely. So let's first define the difference between burying the gun in a pocket, deep concealment, right? Deep concealment means think of it this way, you're carrying appendix, and let's use the Enigma as an example because it's body mounted and the garment is an independent entity, right? And you decide to put on a pair of leggings, like maternity leggings, that come all the way up, right? Straight up right under the bra line, for example. And that garment completely covers. And where did we see some of this? Well, crop tops are back in fashion, right?
Yes.
So if there's any chance, so I'm seeing a lot of more high-waisted shorts being worn with crop tops. It's a current trend. I couldn't get away with that, but plenty of beautiful women do. So, and if that's the case, could you deep conceal under that? Yes, you could probably pull that off if you have the gun completely covered by that garment, that base garment, right? Which would mean you would have to dig your hand all the way behind that garment. But the gun is already in a holstered solution, which does not allow any part of you to inadvertently claw into what could be a trigger guard and then compress as you draw to lift. So the difference between burying the gun in a pocket and deep concealment is the gun is correctly retained, just completely covered over deep concealment, right? Burying the gun in any kind of pocket, unholstered, is the concern, because you got all these 3 little digits and you're literally diving your hand into a black hole and you cannot see. And you are basing this on the fact that you've got to roll these fingers in. And if you do not have exactly where it needs to be, the possibility, and I've seen people do this right off the bench, the middle finger hooks into the trigger guard instead of under the trigger guard. This isn't even holstered, right? This is straight up off the bench and you've got a middle finger misbehaving. You cannot risk that. So if you are going to deep conceal anything, it must be that trigger guard has to be encapsulated on both sides, no questions asked. The issue is when people bury a gun in a corset holster, for example, where the only thing that's covering the gun is 2 sheets of fabric. And if the gun is completely inside that pocket, maybe you only just see the crest of the rear sight and the base of the mag well just cresting at the top of that pocket. And we're picking on corset holsters, but they're not the only ones that do this. Plenty of belly bands, plenty of garments, right? And there's typically a tiny little thin Velcro piece that'll come as a retention device, right? That kind of closes the door on that. If you have the presence of mind to undo the little Velcro thingy and then dig your hand in there, right? Hopefully you get your trigger finger outside, but most people go all in.
Right.
Now you got all these potential problems. And the speed is shot. It typically doesn't go well when you're really trying to giddy up and go. Most people forget about the Velcro at all, and now they are gripping on top of it, and now we're locked and bound up. It's not conducive to training. It's not conducive to classes. I don't allow any kind of soft-sided collapsible holsters in any of my programs, period. They just facilitate issues. And if statistics are based on volume, well, what is our goal? A high volume of reps. Therefore, the probability of problem is going to be there in a way that it wouldn't otherwise. So when we're talking about getting a full master firing grip on the gun, wherever the gun is on your body, at the holster, you should be able to, without getting anywhere near the trigger guard, right, because it's completely contained, get all 3 fingers, pinky, ring, middle, into position on the grip where that grip will live, because you only get one chance at this, folks. You grip that gun as it needs to be because you don't have a second chance to adjust as you giddy up and go. So if the holster prevents that from happening and creates a trigger safety issue, it's not a viable solution. Or you need to raise the gun up in a Kydex solution that you can hold into position via Velcro to enable that. So, you can Martha Stewart, I call it tactical Martha Stewarting your way into it, or tactical MacGyvering your way into it.
Yes.
You can and make those garments successful. But there are logistical challenges with them. And those are safety issues. And that is, you're not carrying a gun to make yourself less safe.
Right.
You're carrying a gun to make yourself more safe. So think about that.
Absolutely. That was an incredible, yes, thank you. I say an incredible answer as if I'm like rating it or judging it, but just, yeah, you just encapsulate everything. It's so wonderful. Honestly, that covers all of the questions I had prepared. Of course, if I had it like perfectly my way, I would have you on here for 4 more hours to go over. I have like a set of backup questions just in case we blasted through the main questions I had. But this has been an incredible experience. I've learned so much from you. I'm definitely going to be listening to this episode. I'm going to skip past the part where I talk because I hate listening to myself, but and hate's a strong word and I intend for it. I do not like my voice, but I will definitely be listening to it quite a bit to go back over these things. Before we end, though, is there anything you would like to say to the listeners that you didn't get to say, or maybe to someone that is kind of on the verge of beginning their concealed carry journey?
Well, for the folks who are beginning, just be prepared to feel a little bit overwhelmed, and that's normal and that's natural. I wish someone would have just told me that. Because you're being confronted with a whole bunch of stuff, language, technology terms, equipment, tools. Oh my gosh, you had no idea existed 6 months ago. So be gentle with yourself. Let yourself have some time to ease into it. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask. You'd be amazed how many people are afraid to write people like me an email or people like you an email and just ask a question. And honestly, if I don't have the answer, I'll point you in the direction of someone or a resource who does. But I certainly don't mind getting those questions sent to me, and I'm happy to take the 5 minutes it's going to take to give an answer. Just know that there's more resources available to you. And the people who are worth it are so approachable and so willing to help you. A Girl and a Gun is an outstanding resource for men and women, honestly, looking for information on where to begin this journey. And there are so many fantastic resources. We've mentioned a lot of them in this podcast. So, I know the show notes will have links below. Please do spend 5 minutes and watch a video from Melody. Read an article from Annette on her own. That's her blog. It's fantastic. The world of self-defense and concealed carry is a very big place. And I'm certain that if you spend a little time digging, you're going to find a facet of it that really resonates with you. And you'll find a voice that really speaks to you. And dive in and just enjoy this. It shouldn't be intimidating, even though I know it will feel like it when you start.
Thank you for that answer. That was beautiful. I wish I had that when I started my journey. I was very overwhelmed. It was the catalyst to why I'm doing what I'm doing now, so I wouldn't change a thing. But yes, it was an overwhelming process, and I mostly had to ask men who are incredible influences in my life, but did not know how to tell me how to conceal and address. So it has been an interesting process, and that vulnerability is incredibly helpful to people starting out. And even to me now, I'm still struggling. I just switched from a Glock 19 to the Walther PDPF. And even though they're pretty similar in size, I would say, I've had a little bit of struggle shifting over. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's a big enough difference where I've actually been struggling and I've gotten frustrated. I've ripped through my whole closet for outfits, some days, and the journey just never ends there. I didn't ask you this, but what is your current concealed carry weapon? Would you like to share that with us?
Sure. I'm carrying the Walther F Series 2. I'm carrying the 4-inch.
Amazing.
And I love it. And that'll until I expand the point where, I'm going to go off body. So that will work for me through the whole experience.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think I knew that. I just want listeners to know that because I've talked about it so much. I know you work with Walther, but I've explained this before, even though they did send me this gun. The first time I shot it, my jaw literally dropped. It is such an incredible weapon. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Absolutely. Pair that. I run mine with a Trijicon RMR Tip 2, and that's my happy place. That's my happy combo.
Wonderful. Yes, I will also link that. I just had Chris Long on the show, and he mentioned that particular one. So it's definitely been talked about. Thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been an incredible experience. Like I said, I'm going to listen to this multiple times. For anyone listening, if you feel like you need to go back and listen to it again, please do. It means there was a lot of good information. So go for it. For exclusive video content with the guest speakers, I'm going to put some excerpts up on social media, but for the full time, you can become a Patreon. You'll receive thank you notes, podcast stickers, and more exclusive content. You can visit She Shield on Instagram and TikTok for show updates at She Shield Pod. You can also see guest speaker pictures and some podcast highlights. Thank you to Sagetta Gear, the official sponsor of She Shield. For any concealed carry gear and duty gear, you can use code SheShield10 for 10% off your Sagetta Gear order and to support the pod. That's SHESHIELD, the number 10 for 10% off. All sources mentioned will be in the show notes. And if you like the pod, you can help by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review. Thank you for listening. In the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant. Bye.
Bye.